episode of 3 to Who, the monthly Doctor Who podcast where we talk about all things Doctor Who. With me today are my two favorite Whovians, Mike and James. How the heck are you two?
Oh, just wonderful.
I'm just wondering why, Eric, you're sitting in front of what looks to be Erato. You got a kind of giant green behind you, and it's just like, what?
Well, that's because NVIDIA Broadcast quit working, and so now I have to do extra work and green screen my background manually instead of automatically.
All right, so you're going to be coming to us from Hawaii or from...
Wherever.
Or there might be a big picture of Uranus behind you. Anyway.
Yeah. Or maybe
now, I can put my green screen up too, and you can put something in behind me too. I mean, give you more work to do.
I've got a green screen, and I don't trust either of you. Right.
oh my goodness. So any other personal news from either of you?
Avoiding kind of all the obvious stuff that is going on in the world. Yeah. I'm trying.
What? There's something going on in the world? Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
an orange shitstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be there still is a carbonated orange drink in this country called Tango. And it used to have an advertising thing where this really noxious, irritating orange creature would go around aggravating people with the tagline, "You've been tangoed." And I'm just thinking, someone took that a little bit too far. But yeah, things aren't too bad. I've got to the stage with my pet guinea pigs where they've decided that it is now acceptable to molt over me. So every night I'm kind of brushing hair off me. I know that's not a feeling you're familiar with anymore, Eric.
No, I've got Yanto, so...
Oh, yeah.
He sheds enough for 100 guinea pigs.
I think Keel might give him a run for his money.
I don't know. You haven't seen what my vacuum has seen. It's pretty bad.
Anyway.
Mike, any new personal news for you?
Nope, just busy working on all the pods.
Okay,
and
well,
get ready for a convention next weekend.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
I'll be going as well. And so that's pretty much all my personal news as well. Is just getting ready for a convention and trying to avoid watching the news. But speaking of news, let's go into some better kind of news. Let's go to some Who news. So, Doctor Who's Anita Dobson says some Mrs. Flood fan theories are close to the truth. This is from, I believe, Radio Times, and says, as we wait for the 15th season of Doctor Who, and crucially the return of the iconic Mrs. Flood, star Anita Dobson has revealed that some fan theories she's heard about the character are pretty close to the truth. So she made her debut as the mysterious Mrs. Flood, the neighbor of Ruby Sunday, in the 2023 Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road. And it was kind of made clear at the end of that there was a little bit more to that character than meets the eye. Since then, fan theories have been absolutely flying. Speaking exclusively to Radio Times at the 2025 Radio Times covers party, Dobson said, "I think some of the theories are really cool because I've done a couple of Comic-Cons and the fans come up and tell me what they think. Some of them have been really close to the truth, and some of them come up with, you think, wow, that's really cool. That's really good. And I hope Russell T Davies, the showrunner, is listening in." She said, "I really hope to do more because I love my journey with it. It's been fantastic, and I love playing Mrs. Flood." So she is set to return next season, with the trailer showing her donning some opera glasses as she looks on at something, perhaps some mayhem she's caused. One of the leading theories is that she could be somehow from the Doctor's past. After all, she did know what a TARDIS was. Another is that she's one of the Pantheon of Discord, much like Jinx Monsoon's Maestro in season 14. And then a newer theory is that she's another version of Anita from Joy to the World. So there's quite a few, fan theories out there that might be close to the correct.
I would worry if it was the Joy to the World one, given the circumstances under which that was written.
Well, yeah, and I would worry too that because Anita didn't seem like somebody who would turn to being this kind of quasi-evil, bad guy behind the scenes type person. So unless Mrs. Flood is actually not as evil as she's appearing to be, but more a watcher, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard
She's
for
someone
me to
from
believe
the
it would be Anita.
Matrix.
Yeah. It's just hard. It's hard for me to believe that it would be Anita because she was such a lovely character, and the
Yes.
only thing in Joy to the World that I think we all agree was the best part. Because her interaction with the Doctor was genuinely a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
So, so that's it for our Mrs. Flood news. Apparently, James has found that there are some new writers coming on.
Well, let me rephrase. James didn't find it was announced by the BBC. I haven't been kind of like rifling through the bins. Yeah,
I have to rifle through the bins quite often. Luckily,
yes, but you're a raccoon.
Yes, that's true. So it's fun for me. It's just an average Saturday night. So the BBC's official Doctor Who page has shared that 4 new writers have joined the season: Juno Dawson, Inua Eames.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I've sent you the information. I haven't practiced the pronunciation.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. Usually 2 L's is a kind of a Y sound in a lot of languages. So I'm going to say,
but not in Great Britain.
Well, but there's a lot of
in Welsh.
Yeah,
in Welsh. Yeah. But then it would have various strange things over it and weird letters that don't exist.
Inua, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. If you listen to this,
and if you do, send us a message and say thank you
and share, please, or correct
yes.
us. Yeah, anything. Pete McTighe, and Sharma Angel Walfall. That's a mouthful. I thought my old married name was bad. This new batch of writers includes the first people of color and the first trans woman who's contributing to the 15th Doctor's adventures, especially notable to point out because Gatwa himself is a queer black man. The site goes on to give a short biographies of each writer. Dawson is a best-selling author, Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and the creator of an official scripted podcast, Doctor Who Redacted. Eames, or Elms, is a poet and playwright, as well as a self-described lifelong Doctor Who fan. McTighe is a returning Doctor Who scribe, having penned an episode alongside Chris Chibnall for Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor, which we won't ding him for that.
Wow, I'm feeling some shade for Jodie here.
No, not Jodie.
Oh, okay.
Some of Chibnall's writing was not the best. And Angel Walfall is an emerging talent whose previous writer's room works include the next Netflix, easy for me to say, the Netflix Supercell, among others. And then the next little bit of news we have is season 7.
Before we get into that, something I meant to add in, because it's a rumor rather than an actuality, as it were.
Okay.
McTighe, a lot of people will know him when the Blu-ray sets had those little kind of like mini episodes that were done for the trailers.
Right.
He was the one in charge of those. But because of that, he was one of the writers who Russell D. Davies has brought on board for War Between Land and Sea.
Ah.
So there is a very strong rumor going round that whatever episode he is writing is going to be the kind of launch episode.
The crossover.
The crossover to start off whatever it is that that miniseries is about. They're still keeping very quiet on that. I haven't
seen a lot of information at all about it.
We know it's finished wrapping. DWM hasn't really talked about it much yet. There's been no kind of big gossip about it on Blue Sky. So it's kind of like
been radio silence pretty much the whole time, other than just saying that filming is wrapped and editing is starting. That we haven't heard much. But that
could of course be because they want to keep it ultra secret kind of thing.
Yeah.
All I think everyone is really hoping for is lots of gratuitous nudity from Russell Tovey.
I mean,
that's the baseline that we're working to.
Yes, that's
okay.
That would be excellent.
And not nudity from Kate Lethbridge-Stewart.
No. Well, I mean, no.
There's a niche for that.
Not for me. But I'm sure there are lots of guys out there who find her attractive.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, season 7 next.
Season 7 Blu-ray extras. The latest DWM has given details of the new extras coming for season 7 Blu-ray set. And and it's coming out soon, depending on when you're listening to this. If it's in the future, it may be already out. If it's in the past, you're just gonna have to wait longer. That's just the way time works. 4 new behind the sofa features are confirmed with brand new documentaries on writer Malcolm Hulk, Brigadier actor Nicholas Courtney, and bringing the Doctor back to Earth. 2 new omnibus edits, which are for 7-part stories. Might trim the padding a little. Huge wealth of PDF archives, including original drafts of stories, and for the first time, information about unmade stories as well. All 4 stories in the set have undergone major picture restoration and sound enhancement, and there are the original extra features from the individual DVD Doctor Who releases too. And finally, is it near in the issue of DWM that's due out on the 27th of February, there are new season secrets which suggest that Ncuti's second season is close. Last year, there was a leak at Disney that suggested we'd be getting it in March, so by the time you hear this, there might be a confirmation.
Or there might
well
not be.
read.
Or there might not be, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I stumbled there in the middle of that. I was like, wait, is this for me or is this, I don't know. I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
So did Disney pick up the next season? Or
Right.
Because I know there was rumors about that.
So they're keeping everything very quiet until season 2 of Ncuti has been broadcast.
Okay.
Ncuti is currently on stage because, of course, they filmed it quite some time ago, so he's been freed up to do other projects. It's one of these things where you got to be a bit careful as to how much you read into things. Ncuti at one point seemed to confirm that there was a 3rd season commissioned.
Huh?
The BBC then kind of backpedaled on this and said, he wasn't actually saying what the reality was. Basically kind of, I think they are keeping everything close to their chest. What I will say, though, is that Joy to the World has gone down very well on Disney. It's up there in their top 10 streamed shows.
Oh, wow.
So, it is definitely, it's not doing as badly as some people would like to be made out. And yeah, I mean, in the UK, it's routinely in the kind of like top 10 or 20 of the week. I say, it's performing consistently in the charts. And I think a certain old school style of fan places too much emphasis on viewing figures. Saying, oh, back in the 70s, it used to get kind of like 9 or 10 million viewers. Yeah, and it was at position 85 in the week's charts.
Yeah. Well, and there was nothing else to watch but broadcast.
Yeah. So, I think it's one of these ones where, understandably, especially given there was this leak last year, they're not willing to kind of, say anything for definite. They are simply going to say, we've got the second series in the can. For all we know, it could end on a macking great cliffhanger that they've already agreed to continue. So they could just be kind of keeping quiet so that there are surprises in store for us.
Yeah, I don't know how they've managed to keep RTD quiet for so long.
Anyway, let me just get a monster in my mouth because that shuts me up.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So shall we move on to today's topic?
Why, let's.
Rassilon. Oh God.
Yes. Okay. This is going to be a wild one. Everybody buckle up because
you have no idea.
Well, I mean, just from my research and going through it, it's there's a big rabbit hole that I've positioned us right in front of and kicked us down squarely.
It's almost like the black hole.
Yes.
You really didn't know what you were letting us in for when you chose this one, did you?
I kind of had an idea, but I didn't think it would be as like completely chaotic as it was. Rassilon is actually one of the largest entries in the TARDIS wiki. like, so it was just like, wow, okay, I can't recap all of his accomplishments and crimes and everything. So I'm just going to give a very quick kind of overview of Rassilon, and then let Mike give his overview, and then we're gonna go to James for the in-depth, like, in-universe, out of universe, extended universe, all of that stuff.
Look at the bright side, Rain. At least you'll have material for the next 4 episodes. We don't have to record again for 6 months.
Oh, I'm only doing an abbreviated version then.
Yes.
So,
welcome to Rassilon Talk.
James won't be able to find out who the next one is about. So
you've been teasing me behind the scenes, you know.
Oh yes. You're not gonna get it, and you're gonna feel stupid when I tell you who I picked.
Oh no, I won't feel stupid because I know I am stupid. I'm blonde and part Irish. I'll have to explain to myself why I'm stupid.
Right. So let's get on with discussing about our topic of this month. Rassilon, who along with and I'm gonna botch the name because I haven't heard it in years, Tectun.
That's correct, yes.
I got it right. Omega and the Other was one of the founding members of the Time Lord civilization. Rassilon was an engineer, architect, politician who went on to be revered as the greatest figure in Gallifreyan history. Although some Time Lords had a differing opinion of Rassilon's greatness. They kind of viewed Rassilon as a corrupt megalomaniac, which he kind of was in certain times, kind of a little bit over the top. Rassilon acquired several titles during their life. Conqueror of Isgaroth? Close?
No idea. That's never been in the TV series.
Okay, yeah. So. The Overpriest of Dronid?
Dronid?
The Patris of the Vortex. That one's easy. And the first, I think I mistyped that, the first early of Pryden?
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah,
sure.
And he's also the Ravager of the Void, which that sounds like a gay porn.
I was going to say, it sounds like a gay porn. Yes.
Yeah, let's not get into the ring of Rassilon.
So after his death, Rassilon still played an active part in ruling Gallifrey, albeit from the shadows as the leader of the Matrix Lords. During this time, he manipulated the Doctor into completing missions for him. During the last Great Time War, Rassilon was resurrected from the Matrix and became known as Rassilon the Resurrected. It's very hard keeping track of where he is and where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Rassilon and Omega created the living metal Palladium, along with the Other, and also created the Hand of Omega. So Rassilon is credited with creating or finding the Eye of Harmony. There are several conflicting accounts of exactly how the Eye of Harmony came to be, but he is also the inventor of the TARDISes. Rassilon also created the genetic link to allow Time Lords to travel through time without ill effects, called the Rassilon Imprimatur. Although this was also so that Rassilon could limit time travel so that the Time Lords couldn't travel to the time before Rassilon discovered time travel, so that no one could discover the truth about his past and find out the darker elements of his rise to power. Whew! And so to keep this episode short enough to edit in the time that I have during the shortest month of the year, I wish I had a TARDIS of my own at this point. I'm going to leave off my little intro into Rassilon and defer to my co-host to fill in a little bit more about this enigmatic Time Lord.
Enigmatic.
Yeah, it's
enigmatic.
A hard word to say. Yes.
It's not enigmatic, it's enigmatic.
Enigmatic.
I did say enigmatic.
Enigmatic, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, the Doctor Who universe, or the Whoniverse. What can you say? So complex and so disconnected, and yet disjointed and strung together by so many things. But isn't that the nature of time travel? So I've never been a fan of Rassilon. The first time I encountered Rassilon, it seemed like a plot device when the writers can't explain something, or don't want to delve into more complex thought. And it's like, oh, well, we'll just say, oh, it's the ring of Rassilon, or the cowlick of Rassilon takes care of whatever.
Cowlick of Rassilon.
The cowlick of Rassilon. Yeah, something.
I heard that's the cowlick, and I'm just thinking, what the?
That's when you get a little.
That's a little hair coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I
You
was
are
I was
correct.
thinking
It
of
is a
checking.
cow lick. Yes.
No, I was thinking literally, moo.
Yeah, that's what that's where cowlick comes from. It
Looks
because
like
it looks like when you woke up, a cow licked your hair.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, the second exposure was, of course, the 12th Doctor's after he escaped from the confession dial after 4.5 billion years.
Yeah, Rassilon was kind of a prick there.
Just
I gotta
kind
say
of a prick. Yeah.
that's a dick move to put somebody in a trap for 4.5 billion years.
I've always been baffled by that, because if you think about it, the Doctor's only in there each time before he kind of like dies and is reborn for a day or two.
Yeah.
So is the Doctor only in there for a day, or is he in there for 4 billion, billion years?
Well, and how long is a day inside the
Yeah.
dial? You
Yeah.
know, it's whatever. That's a very, very long time. And Rassilon to me is a representation of all that is good and bad with the Time Lords. Again, I don't have something to describe this, so I'm going to say it's a Rassilon effect. He's credited with good things and corrupt things that are the Time Lords. And don't get me started on the whole plot line of the Timeless Child, which totally throws Rassilon away, and everything that Rassilon did goes out the window with Timeless Child. I don't even recall them being in it or mentioned in it in that that particular storyline. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I am getting old and forgetful. And this whole storyline timeline gets even more convoluted when taken into context of Rassilon harnessing the ability to regenerate. Because, as we all know, but anyway, like so many other things in the Whoniverse, there are so many contradictions. He bans magic, yet uses it to imbue artifacts with powers. The confession dial is a tool to extract the memories to be put into the Matrix, and uses it as a prison. And the examples are just innumerable. And I have to say, after doing a lot of reading on Rassilon, every time they would mention something, it's like, oh, there's the Dark Tower. Well, that's another series from another writer. There's the Matrix. So that's another series by another writer. There's the all that stuff. It's like, did all of these writers get their ideas from Doctor Who?
It's quite possible.
So
we do know Stephen King is a huge nerd, and
I mean, it's so many things are interconnected, and I don't necessarily think that Rassilon is a great character, but they are part of a deep part of the background of the Doctor Who.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's a huge piece of the Doctor Who lore.
And so much of the Doctor Who lore, I think, started in 1963, 1964. They threw things out. They didn't expect it to last this long, and so they didn't have to worry about the lore. There was no canon.
It's gotten a little threadbare in certain spots because, it's lived on a way longer than the creators ever intended it to.
Right.
And so,
books and magazines and fanfic and author fiction and storylines that resurrect and disconnect. And oh my God, it's so much fun. But that's my take on Rassilon. I have to say that I think I like Timothy Dalton's portrayal the best, but that's only because that was my first encounter with that character.
I only really liked it the best just seeing Timothy Dalton get killed again. So,
James, how about you?
Oh God,
please fill us in.
Yeah.
Oh, wise sage of the universe, please fill us in.
Only when the cameras aren't rolling. Anyway. Yeah. You hit upon the real problem with Doctor Who, in that it's been going way longer than anyone ever anticipated. And it has had more reset switches thrown than any other freaking franchise. When I was putting this together, I was going through it, and in my brain I was going, oh yeah, there's a reset switch there, so everything from that point onwards has to be separate from. Oh no, that's separate from that. So, but what I wanted to ask before I get into all of this is, because I'm very kind of narrow in my franchises. I know you guys are far broader read and everything. If you get a franchise where kind of like some heroic figure from the past is mentioned, when the fans do their fanfic or the fans take over as they have with Doctor Who, do they always then say, "Oh, that was a good guy, let's make him bad"? Is there this kind of?
It happens. It happens in quite a few, of the different fandoms where they'll they'll do a what if, type situation. There seems to be a lot of that in especially fanfic. They
Yeah,
like to what if things, well, what if Spider-Man wasn't a good guy and he's actually a bad guy, that type of thing.
because one thing that kind of has I chose because I'm currently revisiting a lot of old Who for kind of like watches and my YouTube channel, and for podcasts I'm doing other people, all kinds of things. I'm just thinking, every freaking time there's a reset switch, the first thing you bastards do is rewrite Rassilon.
Well, he's a large target. I mean,
well, so
yeah.
I tried to kind of work out what the hell was going on.
And you broke your brain.
It didn't break my brain. It shattered it, reformed it, reshattered it again. Right. So Rassilon actually caused a lot of controversy. So, in The Deadly Assassin, which is where we first start to kind of encounter this name Rassilon, he is set up to be kind of like the founder of Time Lord Society.
Yeah.
Doctor Who fans at the time said, excuse me, what about Omega? Because we've already had the 3 Doctors where Omega was stated to be the founder of Time Lord Society and all that crap. So, right from the very go, there's been a kind of like continual revision of Time Lord history. So, when people say, "Oh, the Timeless Child thing has rewritten Time Lord history," it's like, no, everything has rewritten Time Lord history to overwrite the rewrites of Time Lord history that rewrote the Time Lord history. So I want to stand up to start off with Timeless Child, saying, it's just like another version of history. So we got mentioned in The Deadly Assassin, and we then kind of got the Rod of Rassilon and the Great Sash of Rassilon, and this, that, and the other of Rassilon. And TV-wise, we next encounter him in The Five Doctors. But this being Doctor Who, Rassilon had already appeared not once but twice in the comics. And he was so important in the comics that his first appearance in the comics was relegated to a Doctorless backup strip. In the days of Doctor Who Weekly, when Doctor Who magazine was kind of like 18 pages or something, most of which was comic strips and the occasional pretty picture of someone with some wildly inaccurate facts about them. They did various kind of Time Lordy backup strips, and this was the first attempt to reconcile Omega and Rassilon. And guess what? They turn it into a whacking great bootstrap. And it turns out that someone from the far future travels back in time to try and divert Rassilon's experiments away from creating time travel, and accidentally gives Rassilon all the information he needs to create time travel. So basically, kind of, anyone who says, "Oh yeah, kind of time paradoxes and everything are, New Who," no, they've been in the expanded universe for a very long time. That comic strip, Star Death, was a very short. I think it was like 1 or 2 issues, if that. Next up, though, he turns up in a whacking great 5th Doctor comic strip called The Tides of Time. And this is actually kind of like, one of the all-time classic Doctor Who comic strips. The run of 5th Doctor stories is really highly regarded. You got some fantastic artwork, you got some brilliant writing, you've got characters created for it who were still cropping up in times of the 12th Doctor comic strip, and it's implied, and I'm going to be very careful here because there's a big dispute amongst people who argue with each other, that Rassilon is dead but has transferred his brain into the Matrix. And it's from within the Matrix that he is manipulating the Doctor. In this strip, The Tides of Time, he summons the Doctor to save the universe from the demon Melanicus. Because basically, time is collapsing thanks to music.
Hmm.
It's a long
storyline before.
big ugly thing with bad hair and everything, clearly based on the comic strip. Anyway, so it's, as I say, Rassilon in the expanded universe was actually there before he was in the TV series. Now, in the TV series, let's say we next encounter him in the Five Doctors, where he is a corpse. You know, in the Dark Tower. Well, Terence Dix, the writer, said that he was a corpse, but of course, everyone feels free to interpret things their own way these days. So even though Terence Dix, the writer, the creator of that story, has categorically said that that was Rassilon's corpse, loads of other writers have come up with kind of like, oh, actually that was an AI projection of Rassilon we saw. Oh, he was just in suspended animation. Oh, he was this. Oh my god. Anyway.
When the storyline doesn't work, you just change it.
Yeah. Round about this time, Doctor Who accidentally fed off itself and has created one of the biggest mysteries of all to do with Rassilon. If you look in the Five Doctors, and in an awful lot of Time Lord stuff since, you'll see that big squiggly circular kind of logo. Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, do you know when that was first seen on TV?
Yeah, Revenge of the Cybermen.
Yep. Yes, because it was supposed to be designed originally for the Vogons alien race in the 70th episode, Revenge of the Cybermen. It's
it kind of got reused then as the seal of Rassilon.
Yes.
It's caused a lot of kind of. It's one of those weird things that actually I don't think has ever been kind of officially, even attempted to explain away. There are various ways you can connect Revenge of the Cybermen to the Time Lords and all kinds of things, but yeah, the trouble is, say, when Five Doctors came out, that was when the BBC started releasing Doctor Who on video, and it just so happened that the first one they released pretty much was Revenge of the Cybermen, and everyone went, what the hell? Anyway.
So, yeah, apparently what I'm reading here, too, is some fans initially considered the symbol's appearance to be a continuity error. However, fans have since retconned this by suggesting that Time Lords visited Voga in the past.
Yes.
So there's, it's just like, okay.
Right. Okay. Next up, we've got more expanded universe stuff, but from a different type. Okay? Because again, Doctor Who has always inspired creativity with writers and everything. And to celebrate their 100th issue, Doctor Who magazine ran a short story called The Legacy of Gallifrey, which basically rewrote the stuff about Rassilon. It was in 1985, so Colin Baker was the Doctor at the time, and things were tweaked and revisited to suggest that Rassilon hadn't actually been dead all that long, and that contemporaries of Rassilon were still just about alive. So yeah, that kind of buggered that idea up. Now, along comes the Sylvester McCoy years and a person called Andrew Cartmel. And I'm going to try and keep this polite and tactful. Andrew Cartmel decided that we knew too much about everything, so wanted to put the mystery back into Doctor Who. So that was when the series started to eat its own mythology, and along with Rassilon and Omega, we now have Rassilon, Omega, and the Other, who either definitely is or definitely isn't the reincarnation or the original form of, or the mutated genetic form of the Doctor. And yeah, there is this whole big thing called the Cartmel Master Plan, which is kind of sketched out with the TV writers of the time, including Mark Platt and Ben Aronovich. And you get stories like Silver Nemesis, which suggests that there is more to the Doctor than meets the eye. Remembrance of the Daleks, where the Doctor says, oh no, I am more than just a Time Lord, and then the series gets cancelled. So the Cartmel master plan never comes to anything officially. Except that the Virgin Novels decided, oh, we're now restarting Doctor Who. We're kind of rebooting it, as it were, as a novel series. I know what.
Let's reboot Rassilon again.
Let's go back to bloody fucking Gallifrey. The book that you need is called Time's Crucible. It is the first of a trilogy of books called Cat's Cradle. Reading it for my YouTube channel was one of the more challenging things. Because that, Romana, the full name is Romana Dvatrolunda.
Yes.
That was a one-off joke.
Yeah.
That was only
now everybody has to know how to say it, or you're not a real Whovian.
Yeah. Except that then when Mark Platt wrote Time's Crucible, he decided that every single Time Lord would have like a 15-syllable name.
Oh, no.
Right, I apologise for this, Mark, if you're listening. This is a short paragraph from Time's Crucible. I am Queen Ascendander Olesti Pekari, first son of the House of Forfarding. My mother was Olesi Dranasaur. Her mother was Dryana Shilvasaur, and her foremother was Shalival Karadiaseti. Oh my god.
I thought Banacafalata was hard to say.
Yeah. I dug that out this morning and I've been practicing it all day and I still fucked it up. Basically, half the book is set in a destroyed TARDIS and half the book is set in flashback form to the early days of Gallifrey, where Rassilon defeated Pythia, Rassilon being on the side of science, Pythia being on the side of magic. Mm-hmm. Pythia is defeated by Rassilon, and Pythia then curses Gallifrey so that Gallifreyans cannot have any children, which requires suddenly a whole new mythology involving these things called looms, which is basically also why Rassilon apparently came up with, regeneration and all that. Other theories are available. Right.
And plentiful.
Yes.
Because a few books down the line from Time's Crucible, there is a book called The Pit. Mm-hmm. An appropriately named book, if ever there was one. Neil Penswick, who wrote it, has an interesting writing style. Commas and full stops seem to be wildly interchangeable in his work. And again, I actually did it recently for the YouTube channel, and in the end, I just thought, do you know what? I can see a mark on the page. My eyesight is going. I'll just pretend that it's either a comma or a full stop, depending upon which makes it easier to read out loud. But the Pit decides to rewrite things. So we now get the idea that actually the whole Omega going into the black hole under the supervision of Rassilon and everything wasn't the first time they'd tried it. And actually, the first time they tried it was before that. It went horrendously wrong. And that was how we got things like the great vampires opened up into our universe that were then mentioned in the fourth Doctor story, State of Decay.
Yes.
Right.
Which Rassilon also defeated or didn't defeat, just depending on which version of Rassilon we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the problem you've then got is, so you've had the TV series and you've got the Virgin novels. Mm-hmm. But because the TV series isn't on, but the BBC know they can milk money from it, the BBC start producing their own kind of like hardback coffee table type books. And if I can find it on the shelf behind me, and I've carefully buried it, I meant to leave it out for this. There was a big reference book called The Gallifrey Chronicles. No, hold on. I saw it earlier, and I now can't bloody see it anywhere. Oh well. Yeah. This is the problem. There are so many books on this shelf behind me that I can remember where one book is, and I forget where 5 others are to accommodate that knowledge. Anyway, be careful when you are searching out for the Gallifrey Chronicles, by the way, because about 10 years after the BBC hardback book came out, there was a novel published with exactly the same name.
Oh, no.
Very helpful. But in the Gallifrey Chronicles, the writer, John Peel, decided to put in the Scrolls of Rassilon, which gave a slightly different take on everything than we'd had in the Virgin novels. And in the Virgin novels and in the TV series, it's implied that Omega's death in the black hole and everything was an accident. The Gallifrey Chronicles suggest that no, Rassilon rigged everything so that Omega would die and therefore Rassilon would get the glory.
Yes.
So we've now got Rassilon accidentally killing Omega and Rassilon deliberately killing Omega. And there's a third one coming up in a short time. Right. Doctor Who also gets a little bit incestuous. Because there are two strands of Doctor Who history which both accuse Rassilon of the same crime, but treat it one in like a, oh, isn't this wonderful sort of way, and one, isn't this a bastardish thing sort of thing to do. So, in the Virgin books, you have a book called Christmas on a Rational Planet, where it's actually, ties in with this whole idea that Rassilon was science and Pythia was magic.
Right.
And that Rassilon was the one who seeded rationality in the universe and so cemented history into the web of time kind of thing. In 2003, Big Finish did their big 40th anniversary story called Zagreus, which actually turned Rassilon into a baddie and suggested that it was a bad thing that Rassilon had seeded stuff into the universe and made life forms in Gallifreyan's images. As part of the build-up to that, there was a trilogy of stories called Omega, Davros, and Master. And in Omega, it then actually transpires that in that version, Rassilon persuaded Omega's friend to betray Omega, and in the process, Omega cut off his friend's hand, and it's actually his friend's hand that is in the big crate that is the hand of Omega.
Yeah,
right.
It's very confusing.
We're only up to 1996 at the moment.
Goody.
Because we get the big reset switch that is the TV movie, and actually one of the very few novel ideas that the books came up with after the TV movie was that there were bottle universes, almost like Klein bottles, and that basically you had one bottle containing pre-TV movie continuity and one bottle containing post-TV continuity, because that enabled all the rewriting to take place. And yeah, basically in the audios it was decided, Rassilon would be the big bad. He wiped out an entire race because he foresaw them wiping out the Time Lords. He put them into a separate time stream, put that time stream into a time loop, and then the Doctor trapped him in that time loop, and that was it. Rassilon was done and dusted. Except that Russell T Davies brought the TV series back, and all of that continuity had to go out the window. So Big Finish being Big Finish, oh god, ready for this? Rassilon's mental force broke free of the time-looped time stream, recombined with the Matrix version of himself from the comic strips, and then got put back into a new body based on the dead body seen in the Five Doctors.
Okay.
Sorry, this is incestuousness on a level that even rednecks would balk at. Right. And the reason that Big Finish did this was because basically Russell T Davies introduced this whole thing with the Time War, and so Big Finish thought, oh, we need someone to lead the Time Lords into the Time War. Let's make it Rassilon.
Yeah, who else could it be?
A botched assassination attempt on Rassilon meant that basically Rassilon got even more control over Gallifrey and went stark raving bonkers in the process. And there isn't just a range of Gallifrey stories that Big Finish have done. It started off as Gallifrey, then the TV series came back, and we've now got Gallifrey Time War, Gallifrey War Room, the War Doctor, the War Master, and trying to kind of seriously, you know, you were joking about kind of like enough stuff for 4 months worth of podcasts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Time War Big Finish have never let it go. They are
No.
still producing Time War stuff.
Mm.
So off screen on microphone, there is a massive Time War storyline. Okay, you've got the War Doctor, the War Master, the War Valiard. Susan is dragged into the Time War. Even the freaking Vord from Keys of Marinus are drawn into the Time War. It's just oh my god, right. But of course, we've then got to factor in TV series again. In Last of the Time Lords, the Timothy Dalton one, we see Gallifrey re-expelled out of the universe, taking the Master with it, and according to Big Finish, the Master forced Rassilon to regenerate by shoving that white point star down his throat till the bastard choked on it. Yeah, as you do.
As you do.
Of course.
And of course, at some point, the whole planet Gallifrey then came back into existence, so it was there for Hellbent. That's when we see the really ancient Rassilon, who was then banished from Gallifrey, and in the Devil's Cord, the Doctor, as he always does, and never turns out to be the case, thinks that all the other Time Lords are dead. Therefore, we think at the moment Rassilon is dead. However, in the Titan comics, there was a mini-series in which actually Rassilon teamed up with the Cybermen to take revenge on the Time Lords, but a whole cluster of Doctors teamed up to shut that timeline down, and that is how we leave Rassilon at the moment. Missing, presumed dead, and dear God, I fucking well hope he is.
He's not. There's no way.
No.
They're gonna bring him back for whatever.
And
I can't think of a
at
bad
the moment,
guy bad enough.
I'm convinced that is who Mrs. Flood is.
There's a big possibility. Very big possibility. Yeah.
Right.
Why not?
It's just fun to say. Rassilon is a fun name to say.
Rassilon Flood.
Yeah. I mean, let's say, did Mike's whole thing about it being a plot device. Fandom has taken the piss out of this so much. There are even spoof bits of fan fiction stuff featuring the pink and polka dot pajamas of Rassilon. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everything he had. The nail clippers of Rassilon.
Right.
All I'm saying is that, you know, if there is a sex shop on Gallifrey, I am convinced that's where you buy the rod of Rassilon.
Yeah. That would be where I would look first.
Yes.
Oh, and he can stick it up his anyway.
But you have to have different versions.
Depending you've got to have the Don Warrington version, the Timothy Dalton version.
Yes.
In one version of history, Rassilon started as a female.
Yeah.
And we need the one with the settings.
Yeah.
Well, you put the cock ring of Rassilon around that, and there you go.
Right.
Right.
You know that's going to be written into a story, and James is just going to be livid.
I can't remember
time powers for.
I can't remember if it ever made it into a story or not. I know it was mooted by an author who is no longer with us. You know, the Autons have the affinity for everything plastic.
Right.
Basically, in a story that say this sadly deceased author called Craig Hinton suggested at one point there were going to be Auton breast implants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that's silicone, not plastic.
Yeah, but say they've learned to take over all kinds of new things. In you know, I think in one story they've learned to take over rubber as well.
Nice.
Oh,
Lord.
Oh my goodness. So is that what else have you got for us for trivia?
Trivia-wise, right? You think Rassilon was a rabbit hole? I thought, well, we've got season 2 coming up, and we know that there is a new companion.
We do. Yes.
And something that has been said, I was trying to find the exact quote, but the trouble is, the BBC kind of, things get put on Twitter, they use Instagram, they put stuff all over the place, kind of thing. I couldn't find the one that they put this on. But as was implied by the trailer at the end of Joy to the World, this new companion really doesn't want to be there. We see her saying, "You've got to take."
We saw that in the trailer. Yeah.
So I was trying to think, if we've got a new companion coming up, and I know that you're going to torment me with next month's topic being a TV companion.
Well, it's companion.
Yes. Yeah, but I thought I'll try and do a count up of how many expanded universe companions there have been. Oh God. Remind me never to be so stupid ever again.
Don't be so stupid ever again.
Because it turns out the only Doctor that I could find who hasn't had a new companion created for them in the expanded universe was the second Doctor.
Really?
Up to and including the 12th, he is the only one who has not had a new companion. So, and this is again part of the reason that things get so complicated is because the expanded universe has now got so many branches that kind of trying to work out, who is in which and what and referenced and, is something of a challenge. And the fact that I kind of got 3/4 of the way down a side of A4 before I'd even finished the comic strip companions. Again, this could have been a 5-part podcast, but I'm going to give you kind of like the highlights and lowlights. Okay. Of course, the reason the expanded universe has so many companions and stuff is it saves you having to pay actors.
Yes.
When TV Comic started the Doctor Who comic strip in 1964, they didn't want to pay for people like Susan, Ian, and Barbara. Hence, they came up with John and Gillian. Therefore, John and Gillian are officially the first ever expanded universe companions. Suspiciously, they are the Doctor's grandchildren, just like Susan was. Strangely, Susan never mentions them. John and Julian never mention her. And it gets very complicated as to how you could even remotely fit these people into continuity. They're great fun, though.
Doctor's got a lot of grandkids, I think, just kind of running around that don't know each other.
Yeah. The usual way that John sorts problems out, by the way, is he bungs rocks at things.
Oh, as you do.
Yeah. And I ended up learning some stuff myself this time around. Because I had kind of mistakenly thought that the third Doctor hadn't had any comic strip companions created at all. And just to make it clear, I'm talking about characters who are in 2 or more stories.
Right.
Because otherwise you get into kind of like, if you remember Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
Where Adele Brooks is kind of like in the title sequence. But is she really a companion? Yeah.
Nah, I don't count the one-offs as actual companions. They have to travel at least 2 episodes with the Doctor before I consider them as a companion.
So I actually had forgotten that there were 3 consecutive stories in the third Doctor comic strip era, which had him travelling with someone called Arnold, who was from the 32nd century. Except in the space of 3 stories, they managed to cock that up, and in one of them they said it was the 31st century.
There's a little bit of a gap there.
Yeah, unless it was like midnight 3099 to January 30.
Yeah. Maybe.
Right. 4th Doctor wise, a very important one, I think. I've mentioned before, but I would say I was doing companions. I thought I'd say it. The companion Sharon. introduced in a very, very unusual story that you will have never heard of called The Star Beast.
No, that sounds vaguely familiar, but I
Yeah.
don't think I've heard anything about it.
No. Basically, yeah. When they remade The Star Beast, Donna took on the Sharon role.
Yeah.
Most of the other people were there in one form or another. Sharon was a person of colour, so sorry for those people who insist that Martha was the first one. 1980, comic strip, Sharon. No one batted an eyelid. They just totally accepted it. There was no fanfare, no fuss made about it. What's interesting about Sharon is that she starts off as a schoolgirl, and then in the story, The Time Witch, she's accidentally aged several years.
Oh.
So she can't return home to her family and stuff, but she does set up family and life on another planet with a rather nice-looking gentleman.
Good for her.
Yeah. So, comic strip, person of colour, 1. Okay. Fifth Doctor. This is, again, going back to the idea of the Fifth Doctor era being kind of like, a golden era. He didn't get many comic strips because actually a lot of his were quite long and quite sizable in number of parts. He did pick up a companion though called Gus. Gus with it was 1983. I can do fucking spoilers. Gus actually dies in the comic strip. They give the Doctor a companion for several stories, and then they shoot the fucker in front of the Doctor.
Oh wow!
And the Doctor bursts into tears because he feels as though he's let the universe down. Oh, sorry. Is that a Doctor who shows emotions? We can never have that, can we?
No,
never.
No. And although
the Doctor's an alien, but he's not that alien.
No. And although a lot of people forget about Gus as a companion, he's actually referenced in the comic strip as far along as the 12th Doctor era.
Oh wow!
So Doctor Who comic strips, they do continuity. They know their history.
Yeah.
Most famous one from the comics is Frobisher.
Okay.
The talking penguin.
Oh yeah.
The shapeshift.
Yes.
Basically, he starts off as a shapeshifter, and depending upon which story you read, he either goes into the shape of a penguin and stays there because he likes it, or because he's ill and loses his shape-shifting abilities whilst he's in, the shape of penguin. Frobisher is one of the few times that the comic strips have crossed over into the audios.
Oh.
There were a couple of audios very early on with Frobisher, but apparently they didn't sell well, so they abandoned the idea of ever using him again. But they are still 2 really good audios. Right. We then comic-wise hit the 8th Doctor, and this is where I would like to say RTD, Moffat, and Chibnall grow a pair, because not only did the Doctor travel with lesbians, because of course the TV series had to have the first lesbian, but we had lesbians beforehand. The 8th Doctor comic strip even had him travelling with a friendly Cyberman, a friendly Ice Warrior,
wow,
and an amorphous Gallifreyan blob with a goldfish bowl for a head.
Okay.
So could we please, one day have the return of alien companions, because we can fucking well deal with it. We don't have to have modern, feisty girl kind of things. 8th Doctor era is the other golden age of comic strips, by the way. It is packed with continuity. It is packed with glorious plot arcs. It is packed with stuff that will make you absolutely blub your eyes out. His lesbian companion, Izzy, accidentally gets transformed into a fish-like person. And not just for one story, but for 5 or 6 stories in a row.
Wow.
They don't kind of chicken out of really putting the companions through the ringer. When we get into kind of like the era of the 10th Doctor, not only do we have the Doctor Who magazine comic strip, we have the Doctor Who Adventures comic strip. We have the Titan comic strip. And in the Titan comic strip, he even for a while travels with Anubis.
Mm.
And do you know who Anubis is?
Well, that would be the Anubis.
Son of Sutek.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst Daddy is stuck on top of the TARDIS with the TARDIS lamp up his jacksie, inside the 10th Doctor is happily travelling with his son.
Mm.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? The 11th Doctor the 11th Doctor DWM strips are mainly Rory, Clara, Amy, and the regulars. But the Titan ones have got some genuinely fascinating characters. And again, the plot arcs with those for the Titan stuff is worth getting into. In Doctor Who Adventures for the 11th Doctor, you have another shapeshifter as a companion called Decky Flamboon. Yep.
Great name.
And the last, when Doctor Who Adventures finishes publication during the 12th Doctor era, his companion of the time is a talking horse.
Was it named Ed?
Ed? Yes, please.
No.
Please, that was
Please tell me it was named Mr. Ed.
It was named
It was
Jatt.
named Ned.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And
Or it could have been named Bojack.
yeah, right.
That's
Audio wise,
yeah.
dear God, audio wise, this is just insane. So bearing in mind that, as I say, there was the audios kind of like there were two like BBC dramas in the 90s before Big Finish took over.
Right.
The first Doctor got one new companion called Oliver. Only lasted 3 stories, but it was a closely linked trilogy, which is fair enough. The second Doctor, again, no new companions at all. Third Doctor got a really noxious wannabe journalist called Jeremy Fitzoliver. Never got Oliver Fitzjeremy, but that's another thing.
No, that's probably why he was so obnoxious.
Yeah. And they even managed in 1 2-part story to suggest that the third Doctor had a companion called Joshua who travelled with the Doctor for 10 years. That's not bad in a 50-minute story.
Yeah.
Okay. The fourth Doctor got Mrs. Wibsey in 15 stories. Got a season with Anne Kelso, who then turned out to be someone else, but that's a big spoiler for later on. There was an audio series with a companion called Margaret Hopwood, who was basically a retired OAP artist who shared the time in the TARDIS with Leela. And there's a pairing you never thought you'd get. They got on really well.
I just can't imagine Leela dealing with an OAP.
And in true style, the fourth Doctor got a companion called Naomi Cross, who would then go on to join UNIT, who would then go on to travel with the seventh Doctor. But they released the UNIT stories first, then the seventh Doctor stories, and they're only now releasing the fourth Doctor and Naomi ones, saying how she actually came to be in the TARDIS in the first place, and we still don't know how she joined UNIT. Right. The fifth Doctor got a Roman scribe called Mark, a 19th century street urchin called Thomas Brewster, a posh bint called Hannah Bartholomew, an Egyptian pharaoh called Erimem, and 2 pseudo-goddess type things called Amy and Zara. Right. The sixth Doctor got the magnificent Evelyn. He also got Thomas Brewster, who travelled with him after travelling with the fifth Doctor. You also got Jason, Crystal and Zog from the stage plays, which were then transferred into audio. He travelled with Jago and Lightfoot. He travelled with a cashier from Tesco's called Flip Jackson. He travelled with a worker from Bletchley Park called Constance Clark. He travelled with a disabled woman called Hebe. And then he travelled with a woman called Charlotte Pollard, except that Charlotte Pollard had already been travelling with the 8th Doctor. Yes, they pulled the biggest stunt of all. Charlotte travels with the 8th Doctor and then goes on to travel with the 6th Doctor, and there's shenanigans. Right.
Well, yeah, as there would be.
Spoilers,
The seventh Doctor. The 7th Doctor got Hex, who I am very undecided on for all kinds of reasons, which I won't go into in this one. He travelled with Benny from the books. He travelled with a time rewriting Nazi whose timeline was also rewritten called Klein. In one range, he travels with a character called Rain. The trouble is that range wasn't supposed to be part of main continuity, but then all the stuff from that range ended up impacting main continuity, which kind of buggered that setting up. You've then got Sally, you've got Lysandra, you've got Will, you've got Quedge, you've got Roz, you've got Naomi.
Quite a few for this Doctor.
Yeah, right. Eighth Doctor gets Charlie, Chris, Mary Shelley, Lady Audacity, Lucy Miller, Tamsin Drew, Molly, Liv, Helen, Tanya, Andy, Bliss, Alex, Cass, Gemma, and Samson.
Wow. Sounds like the names of all my Mormon relatives.
This is the Eighth Doctor who got 70 minutes of TV time. Who between the kind of like the comics, the audios, and the books, which I'll do in a moment, has got nearly 20 or 30 extra companions. Oh, and that's not including the one whose continuity was continually rewritten as part of the Time War, so counts as about 6 companions in one. The 10th Doctor got Brian the Ood, he got Anya Kingdom, he got Mark 7. The 11th Doctor got an entire mini-series with the bisexual Valerie, and the 12th Doctor got Brandon and Alex, who were brother and sister, travelling with him for 4 stories released by the BBC. And then to complete it, the EDAs, the 8th Doctor books, you get Sam Jones, who's kind of this hastily written companion who then ages several years from being a schoolgirl into a slightly more mature... Oh, that's sounding familiar.
Well, it worked once.
Yeah, you get Fitz, who joins in about book 18 and stays there till book 74 when the range ends. He is from 1963. He is a womanizing, guitar-playing... And if you think what they did to Rory in the TV series was bad, multiply that by 100 and that's what they do to Fitz. And that's just in his first handful of books. You get Angie, whose brother would have been the ideal companion, but then the brother dies, so Angie joins instead. There's a
hate
lot...
those ones. Where the ideal companion ends up not going with them, and it ends up being like the ideal companion's second cousin.
Yeah. There is a lot of issues over Angie. She is a person of colour, but exactly what her background is varies from book to book. There was not the tightest editorial control over it. And her origins are a little bit clouded. And then to end, and sadly, this person gets a very raw deal, a companion called Trix. She joined towards the end of the 8th Doctor books, but say because the range was dying on its feet by then, for all kinds of reasons, notably lack of TV series and presence of the Paul McGann audios. Yeah. And the 8th Doctor EDAs end on a cliffhanger involving Angie, Trix and Fitz throwing themselves into a kind of swirling vortexy type thing. I want to end, though, with the other one from the EDAs, and whether or not you count this as a companion raises interesting queries, because for a while the Doctor doesn't travel with a person called Compassion. He travels inside her. The EDAs managed to have a humanoid TARDIS for a chunk of them. So do you count that as a companion, as a ship, as a... Yeah. That was an interesting era. If you look at that era of the EDAs, you will see an awful lot of New Who in there. Because the other possibility is Mrs. Flood is a TARDIS.
There is that, yes.
To bring it back to what you had in the news article.
Mm-hmm.
Right, go on, put me out of my misery. Which of the many TV companions am I rabbit holing?
Well, you've come very close to it in the last couple minutes.
Is it Dickie Flambeau? Oh, no, wait, that's a porn name. Sorry.
Doctor's oldest companion, and with him for almost most of the series.
You're going to say the TARDIS, aren't you?
The TARDIS. We're going to talk about the TARDIS.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Right. If you think the history
the Doctor's wife.
If you think the history... Oh, we don't mention that anymore. He's in trouble.
No, we don't. Yeah.
If you think the history of Rassilon is convoluted...
Oh, yeah. The history of the TARDIS is even more convoluted. And it actually ties in with this episode because of...
Creating the TARDIS.
Well, yes, some back history. Because apparently the Doctor shows up in a Type 1 TARDIS, which is what gives Rassilon the idea to build TARDISes. He manipulates the Doctor into helping him figure out how to build TARDISes.
So basically, the entire of Doctor Who is one bloody big bootstrap paradox.
It is, very much so. Very, very much so. Everybody is connected to everybody.
And when it finally ends, it'll just be a dream sequence.
Mm-hmm. It'll be Russell T Davies waking up in his bed like, wow, that's a weird dream.
The question is, if it's a dream sequence, who's going to be in the shower? Eric, I know that look on your face. Take that look out. Take those thoughts out.
There's just so many
different candidates. Yes.
Right. Believe me.
Actually, it'd be John Barrowman waking up saying, well, that was a weird dream, and it will be his husband in the shower.
We've all seen Scott's junk, so it doesn't really
matter. I'm gonna love doing next month's one because there's some really weird TARDIS stuff.
There are some really weird ones. So I'm just looking through the vault because I've got the Doctor Who vault. Just looking through there's quite a bit of information. It's of course all the way at the end of the book. But there is quite a bit of really good information about the TARDIS.
God, James, please tell me that there's a comic strip out there somewhere where the TARDIS is actually going around doing things as the TARDIS.
Probably.
There probably is. He doesn't know all of them.
No, the problem is, I'm thinking of all the comic strips and I'm thinking, Christ, the TARDIS has been blown up, embedded in prehistoric lava. It has been...
It's been buried. It's been
buried. It's been supposedly destroyed. It's been regrown. It's been a person for a little while. It's been
it's been a living object. It's been a non-living object. It's been
this is gonna be Eric, I don't know if I love you or loathe you right now.
Well, I figured it was time to talk about one of the characters that doesn't get as much love as it should.
Yeah.
Talk about your plot device.
Yeah, well, I mean, the TARDIS is the original ship of Theseus, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because so much has been replaced, but so much is still the same.
Wrap us up, Eric.
All right. So thanks for joining us on another journey through time and space with the Doctor. Remember, you can support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube or subscribing on Buzzsprout for as little as $3 a month. You don't have to, but we really would appreciate the money. You can send us an email at 3dowho@gmail.com or a text from 3dowho.buzzsprout.com. The link is at the top of every episode show notes. Follow us on Blue Sky, 3dowho.bsky.social, and on Facebook at facebook.com/3dowho, although I'm not on there much anymore. Standards have gotten really low over there. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone, and we do this because we love you guys and we love the Doctor. So you guys take us out.
It's been a pleasure once again. Glad to be back after last month's power problems, and
you need to keep spare fluid links on hand.
Yes, or a generator, one of the two.
Yeah,
or a TARDIS.
And I'm just gonna say, like Doctor Who, like absolutely all good things, is huge on the inside, with a very small doorway to get through. Right.
Park that Big Mac truck right in this little garage. with that, I say
Bye, everybody.
goodbye.